It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders. Alan, how are we doing?
Doing good, man. Busy day. Really busy day. I like these ones. Makes the day go fast, and always something to write about.
You know, I will say, you mentioned to me 31 stories already put out. I will say, you asked me in terms of my flexibility for the day. I know in the morning rush, you said you weren't sure in terms of time we're going to put this out. I was kind of expected to be later. I was pretty impressed when you texted me saying ready at 5:20 that you were ready to roll. So I got to say, tip of the cap there, and I'm expecting a lot more to come after this, and curious as to what that total number ends up being in terms of the number of stories written. The unfortunate part about that, Alan, is it comes at the expense of guys losing their jobs. Today's roster going to 53, and definitely want to put emphasis on the fact that this is an initial 53-man roster, and we can dive into that a little bit. I also hope that everybody, I mentioned this to you yesterday when we were doing the SN Plus subscribers only live stream, enjoy the way that yesterday's episode wrapped up. I don't know if you went back and caught that, but I jumped back onto the screen and mentioned the Amari Cooper thing and you letting me off the leash. But yeah, probably gave people a little bit of a jump scare too, with just my face real big on the screen. Anyways, let's dive into what happened today. Steelers cuts going to 53 guys here. Alan, what jumped off the page to you, if anything? Was there a big surprise here to take away from this day, whether it's somebody that's on or off the roster?
Yeah, a couple surprises. Obviously, let's talk about the sort of elephant in the room. Chuck Clark, James Pierre, both released as veteran players. I would be surprised if those guys aren't back on the roster at some point here shortly. Clark has been the top and really only backup at safety. And with Juan Thornhill banged up, there's just no chance in my mind that they're going into the season without Clark. Pierre's also been the team's top punt gunner, and with Beanie Bishop cut and Corey Trice going to the IR, I think looks like essential cornerback depth. They're certainly not going to go into the season with just 4. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's I would expect these guys to come back. And so that's part of this process where if you put a player on the injured reserve to return, like Corey Trice was put on, that automatically counts against one of your 8 IR return slots. If you wait until tomorrow to do it, then you can decide whether or not you want to bring those players back. You remember last year, the Steelers in preseason put Logan Lee and Dylan Cook on IR return and then ended up waiving Dylan Cook and never activating Logan Lee until the playoffs. So they basically wasted those 2 preseason IR return slots. That was the first year for that IR return coming out of preseason. And it seems like this year Omar Khan is saying, all right, maybe we don't need to do that. Maybe we can find a way to get these guys to IR in a different way. So if the Steelers want to put, say, maybe Dante Kent and Will Howard on injured reserve tomorrow, they'll be able to do so. And then if they want to bring those guys back, they will be able to. And if they don't, they won't count against the 8. So now the Steelers have the flexibility to deal with a number of different injuries that cause IR stints over the course of the season without running out of those 8 return slots.
Do you have the same confidence level in terms of both those players coming back? Because for me, I was looking at it like Chuck Clark nearly 100% for me. And
Correct.
I guess I should have asked in terms of James Pierre if he was still operating as the top punt gunner, if it was like Miller and Veronica or what they're doing that. Because I would say Clark like 100% for me. Pierre, I think so, but I was a little bit curious with some of the other corners around the league that I saw cut if they would maybe explore something else. But
yeah, I mean, certainly they can do that. I think there will be another corner on the roster. Another DB, I guess I should say. Maybe they're, I don't know, trading for Kyle Duggan, and that's why they cut Clark. I don't know. So I think there's a possibility that those guys, that something else happens, but I would guess that those guys are both coming back. I feel very strongly about Clark. I mean, there's no way. Juan Thornhill didn't practice this week. I think he's going to be fine, but there's no way they're going into a game with a banged up Juan Thornhill without a backup. Like, that's just not happening. Chuck Clark's
and even if you brought somebody else in, like right now, that's pretty tough. That's a tall task to ask them to do.
Yeah.
That
You're not
job.
going
like at least Clark's been around.
I would assume that with the reporting that Jerry Dulac said that Will Howard will go on IR eventually. I would bet a lot of money that Will Howard goes on IR tomorrow and that Chuck Clark is reinstated to the roster. Now, Pierre, he has been the starting punt gunner. Eccles has also done that. Skoranek has been the other one. It's possible that Eccles could have taken that job, and they'll see if they can get by without Pierre. Remember, he didn't start the last season on the roster. He came up maybe week 2 or week 3, so maybe they'll just see what they got and try to get by without him, and then if the punt gunning doesn't work other ways, then maybe they'll go back to it.
Well, he had been with Washington's organization, and then when he shucked loose over there, they were like, "Yeah, you know what? Come on back. We actually don't have a better option in terms."
But it was still though, like it still didn't happen until like week 2 or week 3. Yeah, right. Even after he got cut coming out of training camp, they were like, "Oh, we'll try it this other way, then we'll see."
The one that everybody keeps talking about that I've seen, Beanie Bishop, the other one within there, again, going back to the defensive back group, I think that's really where the surprises came in terms of guys not making the team. Were you surprised there in terms of that, at least moderately? And what's the answer to that? Is it, I know you mentioned Dante Kent potentially being an IR guy, but is it, they saw what they needed to in terms of Eccles' versatility, or what's the answer there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the lack of versatility for Beanie is really what tells the story for me, is that he can only play the slot, and he's not that good of a special teamer. And so there's not that many things you can do with him, and Ramsey and Eccles are ahead of him for that role. And so I think he's a good enough player to be on a 53-man roster. I think he showed that when he played last year. I'll be a little surprised if he clears waivers, to be honest. 4 interceptions. I think someone's going to see that and go, "Hey, take a shot on this guy." So I'm a little surprised that they didn't try to find a way to keep Beanie Bishop. It seems like there's some real questions about the health on the defensive line, that they went with 8 defensive linemen, and that's probably the spot that I would have given to Beanie Bishop.
Atomuwo making the 53. I was gonna say, on the reverse side of that, I didn't have him on my 53. Like, really, and maybe a guy that we should have been talking about more. I know that he came up during the Jaguars preseason week because of how pumped up he was to play against them, even in a preseason setting. But I just speak to that, I guess, in terms of what you saw this summer, how he makes the initial 53 man here, and do you think he's got a shot to stick around a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was pretty good. I thought he was pretty clearly the 8th defensive lineman behind Logan Lee. I just didn't think they would go to 8, but, injury report on Keanu Benton this week. No, he did practice yesterday, but I wouldn't call it a full participation. You could see in the one video that Brendan Howe posted, wasn't really operating with both arms at 100%. Obviously, Derek Harmon is out the first week, and we don't know how much beyond that. I mean, I'd be kind of surprised if they get him back before Ireland, to be perfectly honest. So I think the injuries there play into the decision to keep 8 defensive linemen, and probably is what cost Beanie Bishop the roster spot.
Yeah. That's going back, I guess, to just like procedurally the way that it's done, I guess, because people might have some questions about that. I know that you kind of summed it up there, but had they put Howard and Kent, if they wanted to put them on IR today, they're automatically guys that go to the IR return, right? And they only have 8 of those, so they'd be down already to 5 because you'd be including Corey Trice within that, correct?
Well, you could not have put all 3 of them on the IR return. You can only put 2 on before. So one of them had to either go to the 53 or be placed on a season-ending injured reserve.
Yeah. Okay. And then I guess the other part of that I was going to bring up, I know that Tomlin had mentioned that Will Howard had started to do stuff in practice, and I don't know what has Dante Kent been doing anything?
Yes.
Because I was curious, like, does their participation that doesn't play into this at all? They can still just put them on the IR tomorrow, like we're discussing. Like, that doesn't matter if they're participating in practice.
No, they can go on the IR for anything that is going to keep them from being as long as they're not fully healthy, they can go on IR.
Okay. All right. Going back to guys that were cut there, and maybe there's more to say about the guys we've already mentioned, but just looking at the list from today: Beanie Bishop, James Pierre, who we already mentioned, Sebastian Castro, Chuck Clark, who we mentioned, Dominic Davis was injured waived injured though. Keyshawn Williams, Brandon Johnson, who we mentioned, was in a boot, waived injured as well. Max Sharping, Trey Sermon, and then Corey Trice on the IR return. What within that
earlier ones? There were some earlier ones today as well. Guys like Ekuliota, Dylan Cook, and DeMarvin Leal. Those all came earlier in the day.
Robert Woods as well.
Yeah,
right.
Robert
Yeah,
Woods.
the first group. Okay, so I guess maybe there's more notable ones within there, but anybody that we haven't talked about yet that stands out to you at all? I mean, DeMarvin Leal was a guy that we talked about. Maybe they could fetch something for. Obviously, the pedigree was a third-round pick. The year prior to coming out, he was looked as a guy that might go in the top 10. He was a former 5-star recruit. So I thought the pedigree was there, had a pretty strong preseason. But former Steeler Ramon Foster actually replied to my tweet about that and said, you found out all you need to know when he was covering kicks in the fourth quarter. I don't know. I still thought maybe somebody would give up something for him. He'll find his way, obviously, onto another 53-man roster, but I'm not surprised that it's not the Steelers. But I was a bit surprised. I don't know about surprised. I was hopeful that they could fetch something for him in a trade prior to cutting him.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought that was the one guy that I really thought they could get something for if they wanted to trade. Obviously, that didn't come to pass. Not super surprised he didn't make the team.
Does it tell you anything about the health of
Nick Herbig? Yeah, that's a pretty good sign for Nick Herbig playing in week 1. I don't think they would have gone into the year with only 4 edges with only 3 edges if they didn't think Herbig was going to play. So very similarly to the defensive line question, which I think maybe says that Benton's injury could possibly keep him out week 1. Certainly Harmon is going to miss week 1. I think 8 there tells us there's a chance Keanu Benton. Let me say this. What the roster math is telling me, there's a better chance that Nick Herbig plays than Keanu Benton in week 1 at this point. And then inside linebacker, of course, we talked about when Mark Robinson was cut the other day. Carson Bruner does make the 53, though. They keep 5. I think that's what the 5 was predicted. I wasn't sure which one it was going to be. I think I would have gone with Mark Rob, and then, offensive line, keeping a bunch of interior guys. Andrus Peat makes the team, as opposed to I had Dylan Cook on the 53, and Andrus Peat makes it instead. So I think that's a interesting decision. I'm not 100% sure I actually agree with that one either, but Andrus Peat's a good player. I just think they probably need the help more at tackle than guard, and Pete is definitely a guard.
Yeah,
at this
I was just saying, to me, it kind of seems like prioritizing the versatility. I don't know if they needed to in that spot. Like, you have enough guys that can obviously play at guard without him being part of it. So you could have just gone with a better player tackle there.
Yeah, and again, talking about the injury, I think that does say good things about Calvin Anderson's readiness for the season. Not surprised at all by what happened at running back, wide receiver, or tight end. I know a lot of people were talking about Connor Hayward. It's just mystical to me. He was 100% on this team without ever any question about that. And we talked about the specialists yesterday. I think that's pretty much it. Oh, Skylar Thompson on the 53. I think a little surprised by that. I thought Will Howard was pretty close. So this says maybe not. Maybe it's going to be a few weeks for Will Howard. Maybe it's going to be the season for Will Howard. If they really like Skylar Thompson that much, that they'll just leave Will Howard on the IR and let him go. I don't know. Interesting. It's not like there's any reps for the third string quarterback at practice anyway. Some people online were making a big deal about that. Like, Will Howard's on the IR. He can't practice. Skylar Thompson ain't going to practice either. Like, 1 day a week maybe. If Aaron takes Wednesdays off, there will be some twos reps, but that's about it. Like, so I'm not sure how much
I know that, like, people like, what's there? Like, is there really value to be had that would be more valuable? Like, we've seen them have to use 3 quarterbacks obviously before. Is there more value in just keeping him as opposed to making a trade? But I was just kind of wondering, like, is this kind of their way of calling a bluff, if you will? Like,
it could be
him on the 53-man roster. Like,
I don't really think Skylar Thompson has any trade value. I got to be perfect. Like,
I'm not saying. I just something that popped in my. I've mentioned this before. I just look at everything from every avenue and feel like it's worth bringing up on.
Maybe like they did it with Braden Mann a couple of years ago, but like I don't know. I don't really see it.
But again, for what they would get, like, if they really do like him, your starting quarterback's 41 years old. Like, you're probably
Is it
just
even
better
worth
off.
it? Yeah. If they really do like him, just keep him. I mean, I don't know. But I guess the other thing is you're not really hurting anything by keeping him. Like I said, it's not that big of a difference to Howard. Maybe you get into the season and somebody has an injury and they're willing to pay, early in the season, willing to pay something for him. I don't know. We'll see what happens there.
Another one that was mentioned within that, Robert Wood, like, we never talked about him as somebody that was going to make this roster, but like,
Not
I know
since
there
like
was
the
a bunch of
third
people,
day of training camp did I say Robert Wood. Like,
yeah.
At no point was Robert Woods taking outside receiver reps ahead of Roman Wilson or Calvin Austin. At no point was Robert Woods taking outside receiver reps even ahead of Brandon Johnson. So, like, the writing, I mean, I kind of ignored it in OTAs. And then when it was that way again at the start of training camp, I was like, all right, got to take Robert Woods off to 53. And, like, I think ever since then, that was very clear to me. I'm not sure why some people were surprised by that.
Yeah, I don't want to like say this disrespectfully to those people, but it just kind of seems like they weren't paying attention and maybe just going based off the name. Like, I don't know how else, Robert
or maybe
Woods
just the fact that the Steelers appear desperate for outside receiver help, and he, at least on paper, is that. But man, it just wasn't good. Wasn't good enough. I thought the wording of that tweet when it was broken by, I think it was Rappaport, was curious too, saying like there could be a return. I'm like, I guess I could put him on the practice squad. I'd be a little surprised if Robert Woods wants to be on the Steelers practice squad, but maybe we'll see.
Yeah, maybe just hang him up, pal. I don't know. Was there another one of the early ones that we had forgot to bring up? Oh no, Dylan Cook was mentioned within that because of Pete making it. So no, I don't think so. The other thing that I wanted to bring up was not necessarily involving the Steelers, but just like looking outside as well. Obviously, every team had to get their roster to 53 guys. The one team that we were waiting on in terms of wide receiver was New England. They kept 8. They kept 8 wide receivers on their 53-man roster, at least for the time being. So I don't know that I mean, again, I don't know if surprised is the word that I would use there. I can't imagine they're going to go into the season with all 8 on their roster. We'll see what they decide to do, but just anything from the outside or looking outside, I should say, that surprised you when you look at some other teams' rosters or like a name that was released that you think will be of interest?
Yeah, Cole Strange got cut by the Patriots, and he's a really good guard. I would say Juju Brents from the Colts. Yeah. Not that the Steelers don't have their fair share of defensive backs that can't stay healthy, but I mean, like, if your idea is you're cutting James Pierre and you're replacing him with Juju Brents, I can get on board with that.
What my question is, who's taken do they have the ability to have the Gunners without him back in the fold, though? You mentioned,
I don't know what I don't know what Brents has done on special teams. Eccles, they could give it Eccles. I think he's done it in New York. So, I mean, that seems reasonable to me. A couple of guys with some Aaron Rodgers ties hitting the market. MVS gets cut. Malachi Corley gets cut. Nicole Hardman got cut by the Packers. None of those guys interest me at all.
Not necessarily the Packers receiver everybody was hoping would get cut, or one of the group of Packers receivers everybody was hoping would get cut. But we knew that wasn't going to happen. How did they? I should have looked at that. How did the Packers wide receivers even shake out on their initial 53? Because there's certainly some IR potential within that group as well. I didn't look at it.
Yeah, I don't think they put anybody on the IR.
Oh, okay.
I think they just put everybody on the 53.
But all the good players made it.
Yeah.
I hate when teams do that. Keep their good players. But okay. Anything else stand out to you about today? Whether it's the Steelers 53, somebody else's 53.
Najee Harris got activated from the non-football injury list. That's big. If he didn't, he would have had to miss the first 6 games of the season. The Steelers really need him to play to help their cause in terms of the comp pick formula. So that would have been quite a blow if he started 6 games down. I feel like we wrote a million stories today, and we're missing some of them. But
Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't know. I was going through here. I'm going to go through. You guys are very gracious and gave us a bunch of comments on Alan's morning rush as well, talking about the draft failures. Actually, I guess I should have brought that up. I saw a bunch of people obviously bringing up. There's only 2 players left from the 2022 class. If I had $1 for every time that I saw that exact same tweet today, I don't know if I'd be recording this podcast right now, Alan. But just in general, more so than the 2022 class, I think it's just pretty glaring in general what the last, I don't know, half a decade looked like for the Steelers and largely why they are in this position now. But do you feel like that period has now, are we far enough past that now? Do you think? Like this is fully now, like that's been cleaned up. This is fully the Omar Khan period now.
sure, I mean, I think it's illustrative. And did you watch Morning Rush today? I don't know. You usually don't, and you said you were busy at work today. My whole morning rush is on this today about the draft failures, and also I think some people maybe missed the point there. That this is how you win or lose, and this is why Omar Khan is being hesitant to trade away these draft picks, because they have to go up and get a quarterback. You will be remembered as a general manager by how you draft, first and foremost. That is what his future is riding on. And it's going to take a lot. I think the Steelers team is going to be pretty good. I think they might have to combine 4, 5, 6 draft picks to move up from where they're going to end up to where they need to be. Like, it's not going to be 12 picks. So, like, you think, like, oh, they could trade a 4th for a wide receiver. It's like, they could. They could also get to next spring and realize that they needed to not do that, and then they can't get the quarterback they want. And I think that's a far worse outcome than going into this year without a second wide receiver, which, again, like, maybe that's who we need to talk about, is Jacoby Myers, the one news story that they didn't broach yet. But, like, outside of him, maybe, I don't think any of the rest of these guys that they could have traded for are even impact players. Like, there were not impact players available. And so you're trading a 4th or a 5th that maybe you think you can get away with. Then all of a sudden, Najee Harris doesn't play, and Russell Wilson gets benched. And now your comp picks are falling off. And now the Steelers are a little better than we think. And now they're drafting 26th, and Arch Manning doesn't come out, and somebody else gets hurt, and now you got to get to 10 to get your quarterback, and now all of a sudden you don't have the capital, and then you're screwed. That's like that is the worst case scenario for the Pittsburgh Steelers between now and next April. And so, like, I think a lot of the angst about wide receivers, like, just trade one of these 12 draft picks. It's like, that's not necessarily a smart idea.
Yeah, and the other part of this, I know that we've talked about this on here too, is like, even if those picks, all from next year aren't going to be used or whatever, if you're talking about having to make the leap that you're talking about in using future high capital, whether it's like a 2027 one and plus whatever it might be, then you're going to need those extra picks that are next year to kind of just like fill out the roster and obviously hope that you hit on in a way that hopefully Omar has hit on over the last few years with his mid-round picks. I mean, Darnell Washington hit, Nick Herbig hit. Like, they've done well, in my opinion, drafting certainly on day 2. Peyton Wilson, part of that group as well, that's been a middle round pick. So yeah, I think that's the other side of it. Even if those picks aren't being all used to move up, you're going to need that capital to just fill out the roster to hopefully surround that quarterback in a good spot, especially if you're not going to end up having a 2027 one or whatever it might be, because you're adding that to that 2026 pick to move up.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a possibility they use 5 or 6 of those picks in a combination of trades to move up. Like, that's very realistic. And then you're looking at 6 picks, and most of them are on day 3 except for the one.
You mentioned Jacoby Myers. I did see a couple comments about him as well as I was going through the YouTube here, but I wanted to bring up Adam Schefter talking about it on the Pat McAfee show today, that only one team has called about Jacoby Myers, and that team was also trying to get them to eat some of his salary. Like, what's it, $10.5 million this season or something like that? Like, what do we make of this? Because I was a little bit I don't know. I had an odd look on my face when I looked up and heard Adam Schefter say that.
Yeah, it's a little curious. I don't think that the Steelers would be a team that would need him to. Like, it's got, to me, that just says it's got to be a team that's way up against the cap, right? That would, like, hey, they've got draft capital, they don't care about trading it, and they'd like to add him, but they're just right up against it.
Yeah. Or are the Raiders, was this not mentioned, but are the Raiders looking for like a day 2 pick? And the response from the other team is, okay, we may maybe be willing to do that if you're willing to eat some of this out. Like,
my guess is that was like the Bills, who are just like skin of their teeth up against the cap, and would say, like, I know you only want a 4th for this guy, but we'll give you a 2nd if you can eat the money.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Like,
yeah.
If the draft pick was coming into it as well, that just wasn't mentioned on there, but that popped in my mind.
And the Steelers, of course, would be trying to do the opposite, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to spend the 2nd. They don't want to spend the 4th. They'd be trying to find a way to get them for a 6th. That would be the ask there, not eat some cap, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, even if I don't know, like, again, would they do this? Probably not. But I'm just thinking, like, if it's like lower pick in 26 and maybe you throw in something in 27 if you have to. It's just the Steelers obviously are not going to part with a day 2 pick in 26. That's not happening.
I would be surprised if they even parted with like a 4th rounder in 26, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like that. I think they're going to want all those. Maybe a future pick, or maybe like, maybe they can find a way to trade somebody, Skylar Thompson. I don't know. But yeah, this is a good question, because we had a question about, maybe you can find it. It came in about the trade deadline. Like, do we think the Steelers are more likely to be buyers or sellers? I think that's an interesting question. I think they would like to be both. Like, I don't think they want to buy unless they can also sell.
The person's name is I comment for algorithm 8261. So we appreciate you commenting.
Right. You do.
Out the algorithm.
We love it.
Do you predict that this team will be buying or selling at the trade deadline? I feel like the past few years when we've been buyers more than sellers, wondering if they're trying to sell off some of the aging talent to go get younger and cheaper, also keeping the draft plans in mind.
I don't know that they're like going to be actively looking to sell off talent. I think they're going to be in very good position come the trade deadline. Only 9 weeks into the season, they have a very nice and easy start to the schedule. I would be surprised if they're just hardcore selling, but I think they might try to do both. I think they might try to trade off some stuff to get some extra draft picks so that they can feel a little bit better about trading away from that draft capital to make an addition in an area where they think they might need it. Yeah, I can see that happening for sure.
So what could you, I mean, just hypothetically, what would be on the selling side of this in your
quarterback?
Potential. Okay. Yeah, you mentioned if somebody goes down, obviously. Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely one. Maybe Corey Trice. He gets back healthy, then have a role for him. Maybe they can find someone to trade him. There's not Cole Holcomb. I could see somebody, some NFC contender loses a starting linebacker. Bobby Wagner goes down. Like,
reunion.
Yeah, right. I could see them calling Steelers, be like, "Look, we got to have him. What's the price?" I could see that for sure. So there's a couple places where they're pretty deep that I could see that happening, and the places I could see them buying, swing tackle, corner.
I would say the reality is we could be talking about wide receiver at the deadline again, as opposed to
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, some of the names just might not there's going to be names available that aren't right now because everybody's going to try to go into the season and win. We've talked about the Colts, right? I'll just use that as an example because I think Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard are to try to save their jobs with Daniel Jones as the quarterback. And when that inevitably does not happen, if we get to the trade deadline, they're not in a good spot. Hey, Alec Pierce is on an expiring contract. What's that look like at that point in time?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a lot more attractive. There's only so many teams at this point of the year that have a good idea they're out of it. By week 9, there will be a lot more included in that group.
Mm-hmm. And even some of the teams that we can look at right now and say are out of it, you know, I hate to keep like harping on, look at the Colts as a non-contender. Again, like unless it's a first-year head coach, I don't know what place the GM is in this hypothetical, but like it was Steichen and Ballard, they've both been there for a few years.
What about the Raiders with Jacoby Myers?
Trying to save their job. Yeah. Yeah, they have. Yeah, obviously that's interesting though, because like Pete Carroll, first year there, John Spytek, first year there, but
they got a lot of
obviously been around the block, and yeah.
Like if things don't start well, they could easily sell a rebuild. I think in a way that is going to be a little tougher for, not that they would trade with the Steelers or that they have a receiver I don't even want, but the Browns, for example. Right, like where Stefanski's and Barry have been there, and you know those are getting to be difficult sells. Indy, same thing. The Giants,
oh yeah, yep.
You know, those are tougher sells, I think.
Yeah,
in terms of just coaches and GMs on unstable footing. Absolutely. One of the reasons why you shouldn't put your coaches and GMs on unstable footing. If you're thinking about firing them, just fire them.
The way that John Mara talked about that situation, before the season.
I mean, either be the Steelers and say we are never going to think about firing you ever, basically, no matter what. Or if you're thinking about it, fire them. It's really not that complicated.
Mm-hmm. And now, I mean, I don't know what the runway is going to be now, but
the Saints are going to be awful. I could absolutely see Chris Olave mid-year being like, I got to get out of this place.
Yeah. And first-year head coach and Kellen Moore. So, right.
I think Mickey Loomis, even though he's been there a long time, is very secure in his position. So,
yeah. All right, good stuff. Hopefully tomorrow we're talking about much happier times for players in the NFL, and hopefully a lot of these guys. I'd like to say all of them, but that's obviously not the reality of the NFL. That all these guys are going to continue their football journeys that have been cut over the last few days. But hopefully we talk about something a lot happier tomorrow, Alan. Until then, tell people to find you.
Hey, Saunders _PGH on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. PGH Steelers Now sites account, SteelersNow.com. Go there, read the words so I can get paid. Sign up for SN Plus like our two latest, Ian Covell and Jordan Lindsay. Welcome, both of you.
International.
Yeah, one of those international. Gotta love it. And anyone can subscribe, hit that bell for notifications here on the YouTube channel. Really helps us grow our site to a bigger and bigger audience, which, as we've said, you guys have just been doing an absolutely incredible job lately. And we are at 16,500. Why can't I see it? Can you see it?
Yep, 16,500 and John Bostic.
John Bostic. Good old 51, huh?
Yeah.
Well, the obvious one here is James Ferrier. I know I've used Carlos Emmons before, which is a good one there. But I'm going to go way back, and I'm going to go, you think 50, you think linebacker, right? No. Mm-hmm. Go into the center position. Chuck Lanza was a backup center, about 90-ish, somewhere in there. Back up to Dirt Dawson, wore 51.
Okay. Herbig obviously wearing it right now. Sean Spence came off his couch and played 80% of the snaps in a playoff game wearing 51. So yeah, mixed bag at 51 there. Anyways, as Alan said, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell here. Let's add to that number. Keep it going. Especially the last month and a half has just been awesome. Numbers up across the board. Love to see it. Appreciate all of you guys. If you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever your podcast from, we appreciate you over there too. Leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Just search Steelers Afternoon Drive. Do the same thing on TikTok, and then you'll find me everywhere. Zachary Smith, PGH, for Alan Saunders and myself. Thanks for jumping in. Take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.